Welcome to Celestial Dew, a space where we explore our inner world, where storytelling and spiritual tools deepen our connection to ourselves and the universe. My name is Rocio Celeste, and this is my soulmate and constant companion, Nuga Cósmico. We are here to share our experiences and open a space for insight and transformation. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's begin this journey inward. In today's episode, we are going to be diving into one of the most powerful spiritual and philosophical texts in human history, the Bhagavad Gītā. Now, if you have ever felt stuck in life, overwhelmed by choices, or simply searching for a deeper purpose, this episode is for you. Now, what is the Bhagavad Gītā? The Gita is over 2,000 years old, yet it's more relevant today than ever. And I'm not talking about rituals or religion. I'm talking about clarity, peace of mind, decision-making, and how to live a life with less stress and more meaning. The Gita is a conversation between Prince Arjuna and Lord Krishna, set on a battlefield. So how can a conversation that took place over 2,000 years ago help me today? How is that relevant? Well, it's not just a story that was set on a battlefield. It's a metaphor for the inner battle that we all face between doubt and duty, between fear and purpose. Arjuna, the prince, the warrior, represents us, the human being in confusion. How many of us have ever felt confused? And then Krishna represents the divine wisdom, our higher self, the voice of clarity. Have you ever had to make a hard decision and then you froze? That's Arjuna. To give you a little bit of storytelling of how I came across the Bhagavad Gītā, it started 7 years ago when I was traveling in Indonesia. It was my second time in Indonesia, but my first time in Java. And I traveled to the biggest Buddhist temples and the Hindu temples. And my tour guide, he was showing me and explaining to me all these gods and goddesses. He mentioned the Bhagavad Gītā, but I didn't give it much importance. I mean, I took the photos and I did some meditation and everything. Fast forward a couple of years later, I was walking in a city in Switzerland and I walked into a shop that was about a year before Nuga Cósmico was even born. And I walked into this shop and they had books, all sorts of spiritual books, from the Bible to the Akashic records and working with crystals and all sorts of things. I already had all sorts of books, from angel therapy to Reiki, all sorts of things. But this book caught my attention. It was like calling me. It was calling me. It's like, buy me, buy me. So you can tell it's brand new. And I had no choice. Like, it was so strong. The calling was so strong. Like, my soul knew I had to get it. And I purchased it. It has the every text written in Sanskrit, and then there's the phonetics. You can see the phonetics here. Then the French translation, and then a paragraph where it elaborates on that sentence, where you can have more of an explanation. And I didn't give it much thought. It has some beautiful images. A Krishna, if you've never seen an image of him, it's very beautiful. Very colorful. See, speaking of the battlefield, these are some images of the battlefield that took place. Just to give you an idea, to give you a visual. I'm very visual, right? So I think this is perfect. Like there's so many, you know, like the things that we struggle with in our modern life, in our daily life, in this modern society, like the fear, the doubt, the jealousy, the worry, the envy, the pride, all these things that can like torment us, that don't really serve us, when those negative emotions, those limiting beliefs. This is a very precious book. It's a sacred text. And I never really read it. Like I will skim through it, but I wasn't really like, it wasn't my time. I didn't really connect to the Bhagavad Gītā, even though it came appearing in my life. And I kept on getting this like signs that I had to connect with it. Until about 2 years ago, when I was traveling in Tampa, Florida, I went to this conference, and we were living in Miami at the time. And at the hotel, the elevator like broke down, and they had to fix it, or it was taking like a really long time to come to the ground floor. I was trying to get to my room, so there were people waiting outside to catch the elevator. And there was this Indian man who was there for a conference for engineers. He was from India, living in Germany, and we started talking while we were waiting. That's when he told me, oh yeah, I'm an engineer and I'm here for that conference. We were in the same hotel, but I was there for a different conference, like one for like creative. I was there trying to like present a creative work that I had done. And yeah, he introduced himself. He said he was an engineer, and he was there to present his project, like some sort of software that he had like created. He had it like invented. And when he asked me, and what about you? Like, what do you do? I said, very intuitively, I just said, oh, I'm a witch. And he looked up, you're a witch. And I said, yes, a very powerful one. Which like sounded just dumb. I didn't think I was like gonna keep talking to him or anything. I just said, oh, I'm a witch. Like I didn't think he was gonna take me seriously or anything. And then the elevator came, and people got into the elevator to get to their respective floors. But he was very intrigued by me, and he said, do you want to go for a walk outside? And I said, sure. It was the evening, it was the end of the day, like the conference was over. So we walked outside for a little bit, for about an hour and a half. And it was one of the most philosophical conversations I've ever had. It was one of the most meaningful encounters I've ever had with someone. I mean, I never saw him again, but that walk we took, he helped me understand some things. Like, I'm a vegetarian, and he was also a vegetarian. He was Hindu. In Hinduism, he says there's a lot of people that believe in not taking life. And he had like a thread. He had like a thread around his neck. And I had been doing Tantra for a few years by then. I did a lot of my healing came from Tantra, like feeling the emotions and coming back to the body and just connecting to our physical vessel. So a lot of the trauma and a lot of the healing that I did came from Tantra. And we talked about it, but we talked mostly about like energy. He was really into saying, okay, like he told me something really interesting. He said, the energy of a human body, he talked about reincarnation, and he said the energy of a human body is so big that in another life, we cannot only be one tree, but 10 trees. And then I remember a very shamanic experience I once had when I was like the entire jungle. I was a whole forest. And then when he said the energy of a human body is so big that we cannot just be one tree. Sometimes we are 10 trees. And then I said, oh yeah, or a whole forest. And then I remember sometimes I see myself, like when I had like shamanic experiences or astral travel, or sometimes in my dreams, sometimes I experience myself as being the whole jungle, the entire jungle of the forest. And this is like this really weird thing. And he didn't judge me. He didn't call me crazy. Like, I was used to people not understanding me. And he said, yes, it depends on like how much energy the human being holds. And it was very interesting. It was very insightful. And one thing that he told me is that in this human experience, we can sense a lot of anxiety or a lot of worry and doubt. And he said that his life had become so much better and so much easier since he started reading the Bhagavad Gītā. And he kept on talking about the Bhagavad Gītā. And he said, ever since I studied the Bhagavad Gītā, I just feel so much calmer. My life is so calm. I feel so relaxed. I don't worry about anything ever since I started reading the Bhagavad Gītā. He couldn't emphasize enough how important and how effective it had been for him to read the Bhagavad Gītā. And he told me, if you want to get more into Hinduism, start by reading the Bhagavad Gītā. And then I thought, yes, I have a couple of books and it was hard for me to understand. I couldn't really comprehend things. And it's just that it wasn't my moment. Then later, another book came to me, like a very modern translation for Westerners. Fast forward, I traveled back to LA. Same thing. I was on my way to a ceremony and I was walking on this street where I had never been before. I turned to my left and there was this shop where they sold all sorts of things, and there was this other book waiting for me, which is the same thing, the Bhagavad Gītā, but the English version. Same thing, like you can see there's a Sanskrit, then there's a phonetics, then the English translation, and then you see the paragraph where they elaborate on the text, on that verse. And it also has the same images, has very similar images. Has this one, the Krishna, Arjuna, when he sees many of his friends and relatives in the opposite army, he becomes overwhelmed, right here. And so that's how the Bhagavad Gītā came to me. I have been reading it lately. For the past year and a half, I had been drawn very much to it. I'm not religious whatsoever, but I really enjoy reading the sacred text, and I really benefit from all this ancient wisdom. So what we're going to do now, we are going to be exploring some of the texts in the Bhagavad Gītā. When we're dealing with like stress and confusion, for example, like Arjuna was dealing with on the battlefield, and he was feeling overwhelmed. He says, my mind is reeling, I cannot stand. Then Krishna didn't give pity. Krishna doesn't give pity, he gives perspective. And if we look at chapter 2, text 47, we read, the sentence reads, you have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. So what does this mean? It's teaching us about detachment from outcome. It's saying, begin with action, let go of control. The Gita is about mastering yourself amid life's chaos, not escaping from it. So we're not escaping our reality. We're not escaping what's going on in the world. We are mastering our inner world, what's going on, the battle inside of us, that is stress. Like here, it's like, don't control the outcome. So how can we apply this to our daily life? For example, focus on effort, not on outcome. Whether you're parenting, building a business, or studying, the Gita tells you, do your best, let go of the rest. Think about it. If you do your best, the rest can take care of itself. We don't control the outcome. We don't control the results, but we control the effort we put in. And this reduces anxiety. It reduces anxiety and it increases our resilience. Let that sink in for a moment. Also, if we're thinking about our dharma, what's our dharma? Our dharma is our life purpose, the thing we came here to do on planet Earth. Your dharma is your role in life, not your job, your purpose. Kind of like your ikigai in Japan, right? We already did an episode on that. So Krishna says, better to fail in your own dharma than succeed in someone else's. What does this mean? This means to stop comparing yourself with others. It means to align with your strengths and do what you are meant to do. It's about living an authentic life versus performing for society. Think about your job. Are you doing it because it's safe or because it's aligned with who you are? Is it really the thing you came here to do? Are you in alignment with your dharma, with your purpose? If not, what actions can you take to start aligning more with that? Doesn't mean you need to quit your job tomorrow to figure it out, no. But try exploring on the side, see what you can do in case you are not aligned with your dharma, your purpose. Now, if we look at, say we want to overcome fear and doubt, what texts can we look for in the Bhagavad Gītā? There is a text in chapter 2, text 15, that says, "O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation." What does this mean? A person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress is eligible for liberation. So Arjuna fears the consequences of his actions. And Krishna teaches him to act from a place of clarity, not emotion. Say, for example, you got into a fight or someone said something that made you really angry. Instead of reacting, how about you practice the 3-second rule of breathing? Take 3 deep breaths. Three deep breaths, and then you say, I will act, not react. You reclaim your power, and then you act based on clarity, not emotion. Pause, breathe, act. If you're feeling anxious, okay, pause, breathe, act. I will act, not react. You're coming from a place of clarity, not emotion. You agree? Do you agree? Yeah, you agree, of course. He's pretty calm. He's a great teacher at that. I think he's a master at that. Yes, I think we are a master at that. We have mastered that. If we want to talk about bhakti or devotion, this is not religion. This is about living a heart-centered life. So like I said, I'm not religious whatsoever. I like reading and learning from different sacred texts. And when we practice bhakti or devotion, it's about living a heart-centered life. Krishna says, for example, if we look at chapter 9, text 27, it reads, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. Whatever you do, do it as an offering to me, says Krishna. How can we interpret this in our daily life? It's about practicing gratitude. Gratitude practice is bhakti in action. So saying thank you before meals, saying thank you before work, or before you go to sleep, thank you for this wonderful day that I just had, even if it was a hard day. You had the privilege to be alive. And why does this matter? It matters because it builds humility. It dissolves the ego and it increases joy. The goal is to increase joy, right? To have a peaceful life. To be okay with ourselves. No one wants to be battling an inner battle. I have never met someone who has said, oh, my goal in life is to be angry all the time, or to be worried, or to be stressed, or to be anxious. No, we all want to be happy. We all want to be at peace. We all want to have meaningful relationships and lead a meaningful life with purpose. So practice bhakti, practice devotion, practice living a heart-living life. Thank you for this wonderful day. Thank you before you eat your meal, before you start work, when you go to work, and before you start, thank you for the job that I have. So whatever you do, do it as an offering. Do you see like how the perspective changes? When we look at it like that, instead of thinking, oh my God, I hate my job. Another day here, I can't stand it. How about you change your perspective? You're there. Be grateful that you have a job. You're there. How about you just say thank you? Before you get a job that's more aligned with your mission. For now, you're there. So be grateful for it. Practice devotion. How wise is this? So remember, Arjuna is a warrior and he's facing a moral crisis. That's a metaphor. That's us. Facing all those things, the fear, the doubt, the envy, the lust, the pride, the jealousy, all those things, all those emotions, so many things that go on in our world. It's a daily battle that we face. But then there's Krishna, the divine guide, that leads him through deep spiritual wisdom. For example, if we were to talk about jealousy and envy, there is a verse on chapter 16, text 18. It reads, bewildered by false ego, strength, pride, lust, and anger, the demons become envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in their own bodies and in the bodies of others, and blaspheme against the real religion. So bewildered by false ego, strength, pride, and anger. The demons become envious of the Supreme and others. How do we apply this to our modern struggle? For example, if we are comparing lives on social media, if you're measuring success by other people's standards, that's a struggle, a modern struggle, right? Competition. Like you need to, like you want to have a nicer car than your neighbor, or you want to look prettier, or you want to have like better clothes than this other person, or the same clothes, or the same purse. You see, it's that comparison. thinking that other people's standards have to be your standards. So you're posting on social media, and you don't have as many likes as the other person. You're comparing yourself. It's like, are you living your dharma? You cannot compare yourself to others because you are unique. And you need to focus on your own path, on your own evolution. It's about dharma over competition. We're not here to compete with anybody other than ourselves, other than who we were yesterday, who we were the day before. Am I a better person than I was yesterday? Am I a better person than I was a year ago, 2 years ago? That's the only comparison we should be doing. Not comparing ourselves to other people, to our neighbors, to our coworkers. Like if someone got married before you and you don't even have a boyfriend yet, or someone got a promotion and you didn't, or your car is really old and someone in your neighborhood has a nicer car. That's their own process. That's their evolution. You don't know their path. Only you know your path. And that's what you should be focusing on your dharma, on your path, on your evolution. So jealousy and envy, let's meditate on that. You can journal. You can have a gratitude journal, and every night write 3 things you're thankful for about your life. Yeah, you may not have the nicest car in the neighborhood, but you have perfect health, or you have a loving family, or you have other things that other people don't have. So I invite you to have a gratitude journal, and every night before you go to sleep, write 3 things you're grateful for. For example, I am grateful for the opportunity to live in this beautiful place. I'm grateful for Nuda Cosmico, my soulmate, my constant companion. He's so loving, so wise, so patient. There are so many things to be grateful for. The food we eat, the clothes we wear, the books I read. I have so many books. I have access to so much information, free information. That's wealth. So I invite you to think, what are 3 things that you're grateful for? That you have, that you can be grateful for. Yeah, it doesn't mean that you have to settle and never think of buying a nice car or having fancy clothes. No, those things are beautiful too. But don't let that ruin your present moment. What you have now is what you need, and it's part of your process. Enjoy what you have in the moment. If we're talking about pride and ego, for example, there's a verse on chapter 13.8. See if I can find it. It's a pretty long verse. So I'm just gonna read like the first, like the beginning and then the end. Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification. These are qualities of true knowledge. So it's a really long paragraph. You can get yourself your own Bhagavad Gītā, or you can go to your local library, see if they have it. Or even like, I encourage you to have one, to use it as meditation. If you resonate with this information, if you're resonating with this and you're thinking, wow, my soul really connects with this, it's because probably in your past life, you already worked with it. And your soul is guiding you to get yourself one. Either get it from the local library or buy yourself one. If your birthday is coming up, ask your friends to give you one as a birthday present or a Christmas present. Or you can give yourself this present just because. Why not? You deserve it. You deserve all the things in the world, right? All the beautiful and wonderful things in the world. So it's a long paragraph, and it's basically like when we have a problem about needing to prove ourselves, or when we get hurt by criticism, we can shift that to saying, okay, confidence isn't pride. Real strength is humble. Let go of trying to be right and aim to be real. How about you practice once a week? Start by practicing once a week to admit when you are wrong. So there's an exercise that you can do once a week. You can do it daily, but start with once a week. When you're wrong, instead of needing to prove yourself that you're right or getting hurt by criticism, practice admitting when you are wrong and celebrate it as growth. That's where the shift happens, when you admit that you are wrong. And that's where we grow. Celebrate your growth. You will spend less energy by doing that as opposed to trying to prove yourself. I know we all have wounds, especially if you came from a household where you were always criticized and where you had that need to be right, to prove yourself. Do this as practice, as an exercise to start healing. Remember, it's a battle in yourself, a battlefield in you. Oh, I cannot admit that I'm wrong. I need to prove that I'm right. How about you do yourself a favor and admit that you're wrong and celebrate it as growth? You will feel so much more peace in yourself. It's an invitation. Now, when it comes to anger and rage, there's a verse on chapter 2, text 63. It reads, "From anger, complete delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. And when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool." So it's saying, from anger comes delusion. From delusion, the loss of memory. From the loss of memory, the destruction of intelligence. Do we really want to have our intelligence destroyed just because we are enraged, because we're angry, because we're furious? So the insight here is that anger clouds judgment. It's not power. It's weakness in disguise. And what's the solution? The same as we already spoke about earlier. When we're anxious, pause, breathe, and then respond. Anger is a signal, not a command. So use the 3-second rule. Before reacting, take 3 deep breaths, reclaim control. Then you can respond. As opposed to getting really furious and really hysterical, and that's weakness in disguise. That's not power. So remember, anger clouds judgment, and we don't want that. We want to be in control of our emotions, especially the negative ones, especially the ones that can harm others. Very often we hurt our loved ones' feelings, like our spouse or our children or our parents. The people that we love, we hurt them because we're angry. And in the moment, we don't think about our words. We don't think about the things we say that are so harmful. But our words have power. In the moment we think, it doesn't matter because I was angry. No, it does matter. It's hurting that person's feelings. And even if you make amends later and you apologize, you have already said something really mean, really hurtful. You have offended someone. What was the need of that? Was that necessary? So how about we breathe, we reclaim control, and then we respond. Instead of regretting later, oh, I said those horrible things to my mom, those horrible things to my sister, to my daughter, to my husband, to my neighbor, to my coworker. It's an invitation. Remember, everything I tell you here is an invitation for you to apply in your daily life if you resonate with this. I think the Bhagavad Gītā offers us a lot of wisdom. And it's available to humanity nowadays. It's a gift. It's a privilege to have access to this information. Now, if we were to talk about loneliness and isolation, for example, there's a verse on chapter 6, text 30, if I'm not mistaken. It reads, "For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me." What is the perspective? The perspective that Krishna gives us is that we are never truly alone. True connection starts within. You can never be alone if you are with yourself. True connection starts within. Therefore, you can never be alone. Learn to enjoy your own company, and you will never feel lonely. A practice that you can do is to spend time in silence. No background music, no noise in your home. Practice some time being alone in silence. I know, for some of us it can be really scary. I have shared this in other videos. I used to be paranoid of silence. It's something I had to work on in myself. Now I enjoy silence and solitude so much. And this is a practice that you can do too. Practice being in silence. Connect with nature, for example. Yeah, there's sounds in nature. The creek, the birds chirping, the creek, the water in the creek, the trees. Yes, but you're in silence. You're not talking to anybody. Speak to your higher self. The only talking you should be doing when you're in silence is with your higher self. When you speak to your higher self, and you will get so many messages, so many downloads, so much wisdom, so much insight just by spending time in silence. And then when you get to enjoy your own company, you enjoy other people's companies because you are sharing, you're coming from a place of enjoyment, sharing, being with others because you want to share, not because you're clingy or because you're needy or because you're afraid of being lonely. No, you're coming, and other people can feel that. Others feel what you feel about yourself. And if you want to have happy, joyful, meaningful relationships, it all starts with yourself, with isolation. Isolating is not a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing. I've done it for years. So nice, so much insight, so much wisdom comes from that. I invite you to try it for yourself. Connect with nature, spend time in silence, speak to your higher self. And that leads me to my next point, which is depression and despair. Some people think, oh, but if I don't connect with others, if I spend time alone, if I isolate myself, I'm gonna get depressed. I'm gonna be in despair. Well, not necessarily, because we need to learn to differentiate. Like, of course, we are social beings. We need to connect with others. We are here to share with other human beings. It's part of the human experience. But like I said, it's about learning to enjoy your own company. Learning to be okay with being with your higher self. To obtain that wisdom in silence, that wisdom that already dwells in you. Remember that you already have all the answers. You just need to remember. But how are you going to get the answers if you're always busy, always socializing, always getting distracted, going to the movies, going to restaurants, going bowling, working, doing all these things just to get distracted because you're avoiding yourself, because you're avoiding spending time with yourself? It's about maintaining a balance, right? Yes, spend time with friends, be social, but also make room for meditation, make room for prayer, make room for isolation. Not isolating so that you can get depressed and like lonely and be like a weird human being. No. Isolation so that you can experience that true connection that starts within. And you then will make room and space to connect with others. So when we talk about depression and despair, there is a verse. It reads, "Oh, son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress." It's kind of like a long verse, but it's basically saying, "Oh, son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons." What does that tell you? It tells us one truth, that pain is real, but it's not permanent. Just like summer comes and it's very real, but it's not permanent. It doesn't stay forever. Winter comes, it's real. We see the snow, we are cold, it gets dark earlier, but it's not permanent. And just like the seasons are not permanent, spring comes and goes, fall comes and goes, so does pain. Pain comes and it's very real. We can feel it and it's horrible, but it's not permanent. So what is the lesson that we can take from this? Is to not identify with our emotions, but to observe them. Okay, something is happening to me. I'm feeling my rejection wound, or I'm feeling my abandonment wound. I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling angry. But instead of identifying with that emotion, how about we just observe it? Okay, I'm feeling sadness. Okay, interesting. What is this showing me? What is it trying to tell me? Observe the emotion. Don't become the emotion. Observe it. And there's a mantra that you can practice whenever you're feeling angry, anxious, abandoned, rejected, whatever it is that you are feeling. The mantra that you can practice is saying, "This too shall pass." Observe the emotion. Feel it. Your pain is real. You know it's real, but observe it. Don't identify with it. You're not it. You're not that emotion. This too shall pass. And this is where it's important to not isolate. It's important to seek support. Do you see the difference? When you're feeling sad, when you're feeling like you need support, yes, of course. Talk to your friends. Friendships are very important in life. Have a cup of tea with a friend. Sit down with your neighbor in the backyard. Be social. Go to the psychologist. Seek therapy if you need to. Seek support, whether from a professional or from a friend or from a sibling. Seek support. Don't isolate. It's very important. When you're in despair, when you're feeling like, oh my God, I'm getting depressed, something is happening. It might be because you're isolating too much. So what I was saying earlier, it's about keeping that balance, right? Learning to be okay with yourself, with your own solitude, and not isolating to the extreme so that you are isolating so much that you become depressed. No. This is where you seek support. This is where you don't isolate. You feel the pain and you say the mantra, you repeat the mantra, this too shall pass, this too shall pass, this too shall pass. And you know deep in your soul that pain, even though it's real, is temporary. I hope that is clear. Seek support. Don't isolate when you're in despair, when you feel like you're getting depressed. Seek support, either professional or from friendships. To wrap up this episode, we're going to end with talking about laziness and inaction. There is a verse, 18.8, chapter 18, text 18, that talks about someone who gives prescribed duties out of fear of physical discomfort is said to act in the mode of passion. I know it can be kind of like tricky to understand, right? So it's basically talking about procrastination. It's talking about apathy. When we're procrastinating, you know you need to get something done and you're not doing it. You're leaving it till the last moment. What's the solution? The solution is to think of discipline as self-love. So instead of letting those things for the very end, doing things at the last minute, how about you do it as an act of love for yourself? That's discipline, and discipline is love for self. What's one tool you can use? One tool you can use is to have micro habits. Micro habits, doing one small thing daily. You don't have to go from 0 to 100 miles at once. No, do micro habits. Take baby steps. It will be so much easier. And you will feel so much better about yourself when you get it done, as opposed to ignoring it, avoiding it. Okay, yeah, I need to get to that. I need to get to that, but no, how about you do it now, you get it over with. That's the discipline, and that discipline is part of self-love. So, micro habits. Do one small thing daily, and that builds momentum. It builds momentum, and it's easier, as opposed to having to go from 0 to 100 just because you left it till the last minute. I know I said I wanted to end it with that, but the Bhagavad Gītā has so much wisdom, ancient knowledge. And I can't stress enough how relevant it is for us in modern society. We don't have to practice Hinduism or belong to any particular religion to benefit from this ancient knowledge. So much wisdom, like if we're dealing with confusion and indecision, same thing, chapter 18.63. I don't seem to want to finish. I'm like so passionate about this. Like whenever you're feeling confused or having a hard time, like, or are facing indecision, if there's a chapter 18.63 that reads, but it talks about like, I'm not gonna read the whole thing because it's like long, but it says, thus I have explained to you knowledge more secret than all secrets. Deliberate on this fully, and then do what you wish to do. What is that insight? What does this tell you? The insight is that clarity comes from stillness. Krishna doesn't order, he empowers. So how can you practice this? I like journaling. When it comes to making big decisions, I like to journal because that's when my higher self talks to me. My higher self guides me and I get clarity. I ask, is this aligned with my dharma? And I start journaling, and my higher self and my soul gives me the answer. Same thing when you're feeling fear and anxiety. What's one verse we can look at? It's verse 4.10, chapter 4, text 10. Being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, many have become purified by knowledge of me. What's the key here? The key is faith over fear. Surrendering doesn't mean giving up. It means letting go of panic. You understand? Just because you surrender, just because you have faith, instead of giving all your power to fear, just because you surrender and you have faith, doesn't mean that you gave up. No, it means that you're letting go of panic. And that's when you feel peaceful. That's when you stop feeling worried. And this is why I feel like the Bhagavad Gītā is so relevant today, because we are facing a lot of like stress and anxiety and worry in our modern life. So when we read this text, we are like, okay, faith over fear. We understand, okay, surrendering doesn't mean giving up. It means letting go of panic. And one affirmation that you can say one affirmation: I am guided, I am not alone. Whenever you're feeling anxious or fearful, I am guided, I am not alone. Say that affirmation as many times as you need until you believe it. But just to wrap things up, remember that the Gita isn't just a text, it's a mirror. Every verse speaks to a part of your soul. And you can work and meditate on these teachings. Choose one teaching today. For example, if you're dealing with jealousy or anger or fear or confusion, pick one and live with it for a week. So for 1 week, you're gonna be focusing on the emotion of jealousy, for example, or attachment or confusion. So at the beginning, there's a table of contents. Pick the chapter in the text, meditate on it, live with it for a week, and watch how you change until you move on to a different emotion, depending on what's going on in your life. Thanks for staying with me and Nuga Cosmico for this long. I know it was a longer episode than usual, but there was so much that I wanted to share with you, like I could stay here all day long. I don't know which verse spoke to your heart today, but I hope it brought you some light. And if this resonated with you, share it with someone. Share this information with someone who needs light. Yeah, we're done. We're done. Until next time, act with love, live with purpose, and remember that the answers are already within you. Take care. Say bye. Say bye. Say bye. Bye-bye. We're done. We're done with today's episode.